Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by Element, a full-service investment bank for the digital token capital markets.
Crypto markets continue their bull run. Goldman Sachs to open a crypto trading desk. North Korea and South Korea enter into a peace treaty and post it on the blockchain. Reddit co-founder says Ethereum will be valued at $15,000 by the end of the year. And Coinbase to start offering OTC trading.
Those were your headlines, and you're watching Crypto Trader on CNBC Africa, the world's first televised cryptocurrency investment show. As promised, tonight we're coming to you live from Los Angeles from the Crypto Investment Summit, where we are broadcasting live from the stage. On a week where the Bitcoin markets have maintained over $9,000 and the crypto markets have topped the $400 billion market cap, we've got a jam-packed show for you. Tonight, we're going to be looking at your 2018 investment strategy and how it has to be different from your 2017 investment strategy. We're going to be looking at regulation and whether we need regulation to bring more money into crypto, and specifically the institutional money. We'll take a deeper look at the Ian Bellina hack and explore whether we need a new protocol of security to keep blockchain investors safe. We're going to talk about security tokens and find out what all the hype is about. And then, no show is complete without a view from the chartists. We've got our resident chartist, Mr. Luke Martin, telling us how to trade the charts. So don't go away. 2017 saw the rise of the ERC token as a capital raising mechanism. And in fact, the ICO market in 2017 raised over 5 times more than the venture capital market. And it looks like that trend is set to continue, because if you look at 2018, over $6 billion has already been raised in ICOs in 2018. But as any smart investor will tell you, 2017 was a very different year from 2018 in terms of your investment approach. Joining me to talk about this is Scott Walker from the DNA Fund and Jeremy Gardner from Awesome Ventures. Scott, before we talk about the investment approach, tell me about DNA Fund. Who is DNA Fund?
Well, DNA Fund was really created several years ago with my business partner Brock Pierce and I. We've been in the space, early stage investors together, mostly technology. Somehow we fell into Bitcoin in 2012, began mining Bitcoin, learning as much as we could about the technology, and once we launched our mining operation and we started receiving Bitcoins, we did our best to come up with a way to take those Bitcoins and try to invest them into different projects. Little by little, we learned that there was opportunities, and of course, the ICO market and the crowd sale market began, and it kind of took off from there.
Let me take you to your 2017 investment thesis. Let's go back to 2017. How did you invest in 2017?
Well, in 2017, it was really the year of the ERC-20 launches. So what we would see is a lot of early stage startup companies. I call them the two kids in a garage with a white paper and a vision, and recognizing only a couple of years before, Ethereum was a couple of kids in a garage with a white paper. Remembering how that affected the world, we were all very interested in finding, if you will, the next Ethereum. What's the next amazing project out there? So a lot of these, I would call them, they would start out as small teams with great ideas, and I think it expanded really, really quickly from there.
So small teams of geeks with white papers. Jeremy, let's talk about your 2017 investment thesis.
What Scott means by that is that he invested in everything. He was undiscerning.
Okay, let's talk about your investment thesis for 2017.
My thesis was a bit more skeptical. As someone that had actually gone and done 2 ICOs, I created the first utility token with Augur, the first security token at Blockchain Capital. I knew what an undertaking ICOs were. And I was looking at these teams of geeks in basements. I was like, you guys are never going to pull this off. And so I actually missed out on some of the early ICO trend because I just saw these teams and I didn't think they would be able to execute. And guess what? They didn't. But people still made a lot of money on those investments because they went up a ton initially.
Any regrets of investments that you didn't take in 2017 that you probably should have?
And this is entirely on me, I'm super close with the EOS team, and I was just so skeptical of delegated proof of stake for a long time. And so I missed out on investing in Block 1, the company, and then I didn't invest in the early token sale either. And so, I got in early enough, but that was definitely my biggest mistake when all my closest colleagues were deeply involved in the project.
So Scott, I'm coming back to you. How is 2018 different? What are you looking for in 2018?
Well, what we've seen is basically the genesis from the small kids, two kids in a garage type of projects, to massive raises. A great example of a company that we're working with right now is Machine Zone. 1,000 employees, billions of dollars a year in annual revenue. Some of the brightest minds in the space launching a new token. It's really just a completely different level.
So we saw existing companies try and put themselves onto the blockchain or try and tokenize themselves towards the end of 2017. We saw Wax Token, which was the big platform for trading skins, and they had quite a successful ICO. But a lot of people are quite skeptical. A lot of people are looking and saying, you guys are taking an existing business and you're trying to get extra money by tokenizing it, and you're not really a blockchain business. Jeremy, are you finding that?
Yes, all the time. I mean, what a better concept for a team that can't raise money from venture capitalists than for them to go to a bunch of unsuspecting fools and say, hey, we have this token that's going to go up 100x. You're going to be able to raise some money that way. Is that sustainable long term? Absolutely not. But Wax is actually a very interesting business that I did invest in. I actually listened to Scott this time, and I invested in Wax, and it was a great example of a business that was making a ton of money in a centralized manner, selling skins and enabling the exchange of skins, but had an executive team that realized that in the long term, their business was going to be cannibalized by a distributed or decentralized model, and so they realized that they may as well be the ones to cannibalize it. And so that was preemptive thinking in their case, but the vast majority of companies that already exist today and try to do a token are just looking for additional capital.
So a very different market in 2018. What are you looking at in 2018?
Security tokens. I mean, that is hands down, far and away, the biggest and most important trend in this industry today. The concept of being able to tokenize and securitize a real world asset, something that is already scarce and valued, and put it on the blockchain will be the most important trend moving forward forever, pretty much, because it represents the ability, well, first of all, security tokens within 2 years will be the largest crypto asset class. Within a decade, perhaps the largest asset class globally, simply because blockchains enable you to turn the entire world into a stock market. So you might as well turn everything into a security token.
So everything's going to be liquid, and we are doing a feature on this show today around securities tokens. Scott, I'm coming back to you. Any other tokens, protocols that you're looking at the moment which excite you?
We still believe in protocols. As you've seen, the most important projects in the space since Satoshi have been blockchain-based protocols. So EOS, Hashgraph, MetaHash is another new one. They're coming out.
I'm going to stop you there for a second.
Yes.
EOS is trading at a market capitalization of $17 billion. It's a testnet. Is a $17 billion valuation justified for a testnet?
I can't argue for justifiable valuations.
I mean, I'm an investor. Full disclosure, I'm an investor.
Yes. Here's what I will tell you. We believe, many in the investment community believe, that we have no idea what the winning protocol is going to be. No idea. But we do believe that the winning protocol, whichever it is, will have a market capitalization in the trillions of dollars. So based on the idea that you can place bets strategically on different protocols, hoping that one of those bets becomes the one to rule them all. I knew Jeremy would get that one. That would be our bet.
$17 billion market cap, token price of $17.50. Are you buying?
I've been buying. I've been long on EOS. It is one of my favorite protocols in the world.
Hashgraph, coming on raising capital today on a market valuation of $6 billion. Are you buying?
100%, yes.
Jeremy, I see you're smiling, and it looks like you've got a lot to say. So, EOS?
I won't go into specific protocols. Let's just talk about the market. It's irrationally exuberant. Like, I came into this conference today depressed. And the reason why I came in depressed was because there were too many people at this conference. There were too many booths, and too many people sitting in front of me right now. The fact of the matter is that what happened in March, when the market went down 70%, wasn't nearly enough, clearly. I mean, there are just way too many people in this room right now to possibly demonstrate that the shakeout we needed occurred. The only way this market is truly going to mature is when people lose a lot of money and there is a massive shakeout. Because when testnets are valued at $17 billion, there's something wrong. Yes, I agree with Scott that 100% some of these protocols will be worth trillions of dollars, but in the short term, it's totally irrational. Most of them are going to zero, and right now we have rabid enthusiasm for technology that nobody is using.
So you're calling a big decline, but are you buying or investing in any protrocols? Do you have any protocols where you're saying?
So I'm a total bull right now. I think the market's totally going up. I mean, I thought there was going to be this crypto winter that was triggered in March, but there's not a single index that I would point to demonstrate a bear market being sustained. We're totally going back up. OTC markets are crazy, multi-billion-dollar bids left and right.
I'm going to put you down. I want some names of tokens. I want to know what Jeremy is investing in. I want to know what excites Jeremy.
So my bets are the same as always for the most part. I mean, there are obviously a few new ones, but you stay with the mainstays. You go with Bitcoin. You go with Ethereum. They're the ones that do really well in bull markets. I've got an EOS position. I like Quantum. Protocols are really good bets. Filecoin, I'm holding my entire position from the pre-sale. And then there are a few utility tokens that I really like. Augur, it's a decentralized prediction market.
Well, you created that token.
Yeah, they've got a big announcement coming out today. And that in my view is the best utility token. There's a new project called True Story. I love Basecoin, the stable coin. But most of these tokens, the vast majority of my investment thesis revolves around the protocols. Because once again, those are what are going to $1 trillion.
Scott, your 3 favorite tokens for 2018.
My 3 favorite tokens for
3 favorite projects for 2018.
Putting it on the spot. I love Hashgraph. I love EOS. Those are 2 competing tokens for 2018.
Neither of which necessarily need to exist for their chains.
Let's not get into that. Gentlemen, one last question. Institutional money. Everyone's talking about the institutional money coming into crypto in 2018. What do we need to get the institutional money? Very quickly.
Security tokens, securitization of assets on the blockchain, moving away from all these utility tokens with no value, no purpose, into security tokens that actually provide a real world value.
Jeremy.
Custodianship. If you have over $150 million under management, according to the SEC, you have to have a licensed custodian. There's not a licensed custodian that actually exists. So we got to figure that out really fast if we want real money coming to this space. But there are multiple custodian companies that are figuring out this problem.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Our next guest says that we don't need regulation, and we certainly don't even want the institutions into trading, so stay tuned. So what do you think the biggest trends are going to be in 2018?
Ooh, and trends in terms of what? Crypto and blockchain, in art? What are we talking about here?
Let's talk about crypto trends for 2018.
All right, so for crypto, we're looking at tokenization of assets. We're looking at companies who are really starting to figure out what they're going to do with their security tokens. We're looking at blockchain being implemented within a few different markets. Specifically for my market, which is the art market, we're going to see some amazing things. My company is called All Public Art, and we're going to be doing some really exciting things for the art community, so look out.
Everyone's talking about securities tokens here inside the United States. That seems to be a big thing. But we're also looking outside the United States to see if the utility tokens are very viable.
Are you buying into securities tokens in 2018?
I think it's a good concept for certain things, but the utility token's also a great thing, and it's somehow a shame that it's been compromised.
Securities tokens for 2018, is it a big thing?
I think it was a bigger thing last year, but it's definitely not going away. The utility tokens are going to play a lot bigger role this year in terms of EOS and other blockchains or you're even avenuing that etherum is now a utility token instead of a security. So we'll see how it goes this year, but I think it's going to be playing more role of utility tokens.
Security tokens, they definitely have a big role in 2018. I think they're here to solve a big problem that is taking place with ICOs. The future of those utility tokens need to be solved, and that's a major question right now.
I agree. There's been a big question about the tokenomics of a lot of ICOs. Tokens don't serve real purposes, and a lot of ICOs are moving towards the security model.
Regulation. Do we need regulation to bring the institutional investors into crypto? And do we want the institutional investors in crypto? This week, the CEO of the NASDAQ came out and said that ICOs should be regulated, which is kind of strange because last week we read that the NASDAQ may become a cryptocurrency exchange. My next guest claims that we don't need regulation to bring institutional capital into crypto. David, do we need the regulation?
Thanks for having me, Rand. This is an exciting conference and glad to be on the show. No, we don't need regulation. It's pretty obvious from my view yesterday. Regulation in itself creates a lot of issues in the way that it's implemented today. So it's really not regulation in general. I would say that there's certain regulation that's needed for society to exist. I mean, everyone knows that stealing is wrong. We don't need the SEC to tell us that. And so to have the NASDAQ, it's amazing to see the NASDAQ talk about this, actually. Like even just a year ago, to imagine the NASDAQ making those statements, it's just mind-boggling. In a 12-month period, the change in the view by these groups. What I mentioned yesterday, to clarify, I think I actually made a mistake. It was 1973 when the NYSE established. And I'm making this up. It's called the Central Certificate Service, okay? And that was changed to the DTS, which combined with the only other approved clearinghouse in the country in 1999, between the one that NASDAQ and the American Stock Exchange were using with the NYSE to form what now is nominally called CD&Co, which is the only approved licensed clearinghouse in the United States for security equities.
But let's take a step back. The SEC has a mandate, and the mandate is to protect the man in the street so that they don't get conned, ripped off, or lose their money. That's the mandate of the SEC today, right?
Well, that's a general statement. That's not what it says in the documents. That's not what it says in the law.
So how do you suggest that the individual investor be protected from investing in scams if we don't have regulation?
Well, I think the markets will speak for themselves. So I touched on this also yesterday. That's the beauty of free markets, is that people won't trust authorities or parties, organizations that choose to associate themselves with scams or inappropriate behavior. If you lie or cheat or steal, people aren't going to think highly of you. So if you follow not a government mandated process, but say a process that's agreed upon by several organizations in the space, and that creates, generates some steam, and now people are following the same process. Oh, they're following XYZ process. They must be a good company.
Are you insinuating self-regulation?
Yeah, regulation by creating a consensus among the participants, which I wish we had some sort of technology to easily do that.
Let's look at the layman, the person who wants to invest. Let's use my mother as an example. My mother wants to invest in an ICO. What protects her?
What protects her from what? Losing her money?
Losing her money through a scam.
Through a scam. I mean, at some point you have to put the onus on the investor. So it's hard for me to just, give you, for each individual person you put out, your grandma or this person. But at the end of the day, you need to, at some point, put the onus on the investor. The investor needs to take some responsibility for what they're investing in. And to say that the rules and laws are protecting the investor, I think is just such a crock. I mean, what's the difference between all of our money in our pockets and, the elites? Why do they have to have the ability to invest in certain things and we don't? Because we don't have $1 million in our bank account? That makes me less of an authority or not as smart as the institution or VCs or individuals. It's been proven that they are no better at picking good investments than all of us in the room.
So what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting that the SEC just sit back and watch this happen?
That'd be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen either. No, I mean, I think that, I'm not like an anarchist. I don't just believe that we should get rid of the SEC. I just think that the rules that are made should be decided upon by the participants. I think that we should all come to an agreement together on how we're going to solve this, because it's like we've been doing it. Why now all of a sudden there's big statements and we're all just completely scared that now we're all going to go to jail? It makes absolutely no sense. Bitcoin has been operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since 2009 without a hiccup. And now all of a sudden we need the SEC and CFTC's help? How is that even a thing?
What if we built the rules into the blockchain? What if the blockchain or a layer around the blockchain protected investors?
In what way?
If we created protocols that sat around the blockchain to make sure that investments were protected.
Yeah, I think you see some of that with some of the newer protocols. I don't know specifically what you're referring to. It's hard. Generally, you see some of that with EOS. There's some settlement, there's some human behavior being brought into. And I'd like to comment on EOS because, I would like to participate in EOS too, but I'm a US citizen. Jeremy was just up here saying that he missed out on participating. What was he going to do? Just because he's part of the elite class, he's some workaround and some paperwork to allow him to invest in EOS. But we're both US citizens. Why would he get to invest and I wouldn't? He just came on the show and said, you wished you would have invested in the protocol. Yeah. Makes absolutely no sense.
My next guest believes that you can build protocols around the blockchain or to support the blockchain to keep investors safe. Your investment themes for 2018, what are you guys looking to invest in?
We're actually doing an ICO, so we're actually looking for investors. We're with Presence PBC, which is in the digital wellness space, and we're trying to create a new way of engaging with the web, an alternative to the browser that's much healthier. It doesn't drag you into endless feeds and allows you to have a much better experience. It's more curated, and for your social media feeds from the rest of the web, and connecting you to people that matter most at the time it matters.
Do you believe in technical analysis? Do you believe that you can use charts to predict future prices?
I think that's an element of it. I wouldn't say you should rely solely on that, though.
Online data-driven information gives good verification. I think that in today's universe, if you don't have enough good verifiable information, it's very hard to predict the future.
Now, a few weeks ago, prominent ICO investor Ian Bellina got hacked for over $3 million worth of his tokens. He got hacked while he was broadcasting his live show. And whereas the hackers made away with $3 million of tokens, they also highlighted the need for added security for blockchain investors. After all, if an astute investor like Ian Bellina could be hacked, it could happen to any one of us. Now, my next guest believes that you can build protocols around the blockchain or to support the blockchain to keep investors safe. John, I think the best way to talk about Sentinel Protocol is to talk about how it came about.
Well, that's a very, very good question. And basically, we came about because our CEO, Patrick Kim, he was hacked. He was hacked of 7,218 Ethereum. Back in May 2016.
And what did he build, or how is he solving the problem?
Well, as a result of that, you can imagine anyone would have a lot of pain, a lot of angst from such an experience. And basically, to resolve the problem, he was inspired to create Uppsala Foundation, which is the company that I'm working with, and I'm working on the Sentinel Protocol project.
So you said he got hacked for 7,200 Ethereum. What was the value of the Ethereum when he got hacked?
Well, it was 7,218 Ethereum, and the value then was approximately $70,000. It would be a lot more now.
A hell of a lot more now. So what is Sentinel Protocol? How does it work? How does it solve the problem?
Well, Sentinel Protocol is a security intelligence platform for blockchain. And basically, we are the first IT security solution that utilizes blockchain technology coupled with collective security intelligence to protect valuable crypto tokens of individuals and organizations against hacks, scams, and fraud.
Okay, now say that in English.
Basically, we are putting together a self-sustaining cybersecurity ecosystem of security experts and organizations to help individuals and organizations protect their cryptocurrencies.
How does it work?
It works by, we have a threat reputation database. It's a database of security intelligence, and it sits on the blockchain. It is connected through APIs to different types of endpoints. It is platform agnostic. So inside this database, we have different types of information, like the addresses of confirmed dangerous wallets belonging to hackers. In addition to that, we have malicious URLs, phishing addresses, dangerous IP addresses, command control sites, and other types of information that, if provided to somebody that is using the blockchain or using a wallet in exchange, for instance, they could receive an alert or a particular dangerous action could be blocked.
So let's look at a practical example. If I am being scammed by an ICO and I'm about to deposit my money into this scam address, Binance would integrate into Sentinel Protocol using the API, and when I input the address of where I'm going to send the money, I'd get an alert, which would tell me that this is a scam address?
Rand, that is exactly right. If that particular IP address or URL were in the database, we would provide the user with an alert. And he could decide to go on with the transaction, or the integrator, such as an exchange, could say, if we get an alert of this magnitude, block the transaction. So in which case, we're actually protecting the user. We could do other things, such as if somebody is sending a large amount of crypto coins to multiple addresses, automatically another layer of authentication would be needed. And if that were to happen, would have been protected.
So it comes down to the power of the database that you guys have got. How do you build the database?
Well, it's not only the database, but it's also we're providing systems for machine learning, for anomaly detection, as well as distributed sandboxing. So we have multiple tools to look at things and analyze them from various vectors. But how do we build it? We're putting together an ecosystem of cybersecurity professionals, experts, and organizations that are going to contribute their collective cybersecurity intelligence so that we get away from the silos of security intelligence that we see today, such as if we buy an antivirus product from a particular vendor. We get that intelligence of that vendor only. But by doing the system that we have in mind, we have collective cybersecurity that crosses vendor lines, that crosses geographies, and therefore, by having a wider scope of information, we provide better, deeper protection to users.
So I'm assuming that there's a token associated with all of this. How does the token work?
Well, the token is a very, very important part of the entire thing. And the reason is that, to motivate people, to reward them for their contribution, you have to do something besides say thank you. And basically what we're doing is that we're going to have Sentinel points, and that will be convertible into our token called the OOP, which can be translated into other types of tokens or fiat. But basically, it is a utility circulating token to reward people for their contributions realized by our users.
So to summarize it very simply, if I have a database of malicious addresses, I feed them into the system, and I get rewarded with these tokens, with points.
That's right.
The points are convertible into tokens if I want to convert them into tokens. The users who ping the database are going to be paying using tokens.
Actually, the way that works, we will be providing our core modules through the API free of charge for filtering. Our advanced modules, machine learning and sandboxing, will be available on a reasonable per annum subscription, or it could be on a per month basis as well.
So what you're saying is we need to build a layer of security systems to protect blockchain investors from being conned, scammed, phished, etc. And Sentinel Protocol is doing exactly that.
That is exactly what we're doing because we think it's very, very important. Right now, it's the wild, wild west out there. And we need to bring some stability so that people can sleep at night.
I want to be able to sleep at night. How do I get hold of your tokens?
Well, I would suggest to you to go to our webpage, and that's https / sentinelprotocol.io. And you can communicate with our team there. We have a Telegram page, and it's in English, Chinese, Korean, and Japanese. So we're very, very multicultural.
So that's sentinelprotocol.io if you want more information about this token.
Do we need regulation to bring more money into crypto?
You know what? It's interesting coming from South Africa and where we come from, and just having all of this crypto now in our markets and the accessibility into it is fantastic.
Do you think we need regulation to bring more money into crypto?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think there needs to be a balance between, regulation to protect the people that are part of crypto and also the companies themselves, and the freedom to actually stay with the base of what crypto is.
So, your investment thesis for 2018, what are you investing in 2018?
I generally just try to buy the market, top 10 to 20 market cap. So expect the whole market to grow, rebalance accordingly, weekly.
Welcome back, and now's probably a good time to remind our YouTube viewers that if you are watching on YouTube, now is a good time to hit the subscribe now button, like and share this video. Securities tokens, what is all the fuss about? If you listened to our guests earlier tonight, they said that their biggest bet for 2018 was all about securities tokens. And if you've been watching our show for the last few weeks, you'll realize that every expert has been calling securities tokens. With me today on stage, I've got a panel of two guests who are experts in securities token. I've got Jamie Finn, who's the CEO and co-founder of Securitize, and I've got Ami Ben David, and he's the founder of Spice VC. Gentlemen, you guys are the securities tokens people. Ami, I'm going to come to you. What is all the fuss about?
Well, security tokens are really about remodeling the way that we deal with ownership of assets, ownership of anything. And it's pretty much like the Bitcoin for me. Bitcoin was a new way of taking value, which was money, and moving it from one person to the other, or holding it. And security tokens are doing exactly the same thing for assets, equity, debt, anything like that, where you can hold it as a token, or you can give it to somebody else, which makes it immediately liquid.
So I understand the concept of securities tokens pretty well. You can basically take any asset, you can tokenize ownership, you can take illiquid assets, and now you can issue securities to make them liquid. So if we look at a building or a hotel, which before was illiquid, you could now break it up into a whole lot of tokens, securitize it, and then start selling the tokens. If you look at a traditional venture capital fund, you can now tokenize a venture capital fund.
Spice itself is a tokenized fund. We are the first fully tokenized fund. And it actually works very, very simply. Investors in the fund get tokens instead of papers. And when we have an exit, we pay back to the token holders. The only difference from a regular fund is that the tokens are liquid. You can move them to somebody else.
Okay, I got it. But can securities tokens be as exciting as utility tokens? When I look at a utility token, I look at returns of 3x, 5x, 10x. Those are the type of returns that investors look for. When you tokenize a hotel, for example, your best return is a little bit of liquidity in an existing business and providing a little bit more yield.
You're comparing two things that are not comparable at all. Utility tokens are relevant for some use cases. Protocols, network. Security tokens is a much bigger market, like 2 orders of magnitude or more. Like it's $1 trillion market, and in this market you'll have all kinds of assets. You will have buildings which have, 8% a year, and at the same time you will be able to invest in startups that can grow, dramatically and become, unicorns.
And also one of the biggest differences is these are now available to everybody. And so previously only a high-end family office might have access to a certain real estate deal. Now it's available and more than likely listed on quite a few exchanges.
Jamie, I'm looking at you. Securitize. What does Securitize actually do?
So we're a primary issuance platform. So we work with companies like Spice VC in order to do the issuance of a security token and make sure that it's taken to market in a compliant way that follows the regulations in each and every country.
Have we taken any securities tokens to market other than Spice VC? I know Spice is a securities token. Have we taken any securities tokens to market?
So Open Finance is the first marketplace that's listing security tokens, and Spice VC is going to be the first security token there. I can tell you we have a list of 15 plus customers that'll be coming to market over the next few months, and they'll be on Open Finance as well as other exchanges, marketplaces like T0.
Now you talk about 15 plus customers. Give me an idea of the size or magnitude of the deals that you're talking about in the securities token world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're getting a lot bigger. We started out with, Spice is a significant deal, $40+ million. But then now we're seeing $500 million deals, right? We're seeing Bitcoin mining operations that are tokenizing. They're going to be available as a single token, represents a hash rate with a daily payout, a dividend paid on a daily basis, which is a fantastic opportunity that's coming to market. We're also seeing other opportunities, things like space stations. I mean, these are things that you would never, ever even envisage being able to invest in. And you see these opportunities coming to market, and all the investors who are accredited in the US and internationally, different rules apply, will be available to make these purchases.
When is this all going to happen? I know that T0 have mentioned that their launch may be somewhere around May. Are you bullish that somewhere around May or June we're going to get a whole lot of securities token exchanges?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a few more. There's, you have to think about Bank of the Future, the Gibraltar Exchange, VRBX. There's a whole number of different security token exchanges that are coming online. And even so, today with our customers, we implement Bancor. So Bancor.network gives you immediate liquidity. And so you have the ability, even as a US investor, to get liquidity from the very first day.
Is 2018 going to be the year of securities tokens, or is there going to be a bit of a lag, and can we expect this big spike to happen in 2019? Ami?
Yes, I can give you a prediction because of what we're seeing, and we're seeing the market. So Spice was only the fourth security token, so people are not used to it yet, and they're not seeing it. But from what we're seeing, by the end of this year, every provider that provides services for security token across the ecosystem, from the protocols and legal and issuers and lifetime management and exchange, every one of them is going to be overbooked with deals. We're seeing hundreds of them coming. And it's not a hard prediction to make because the few providers that are there are already overbooked. So by the end of the year, it's going to be much more.
So it sounds like the most exciting play is actually to invest in the providers for the securities token business. Are there any providers which are going to market? And I'm looking at you because specifically I'm looking at Securitize. Can we expect an ICO from Securitize at some point?
I wouldn't rule anything out at this point, but we haven't
That
made
means
any
yes.
announcements.
So they're a portfolio company of Spice, so we're very happy with that.
Yeah, I would say if you want to invest in Securitize, the best way would go and invest in Spice because they own a large chunk of us.
I want to try and understand a little bit more about the Securitize business. How much of the business is automated in a piece of software? Because you guys are issuing securities tokens, and if I understand correctly, you're not only an issuing house, but you actually manage the process end to end. So someone would come to you and say, I want to issue a securities token. We manage the process from end to end.
That's right.
How much of that is automated, and how much of that relies on people?
So the pieces that rely on, so almost all of our platform is an automated platform. The onboarding of an investor, and you're free to go and try this on a few sites and actually sign up for them. So like the 22xfund.com, you can go there and experience our product live. And so you can go through the registration process, get all the information, understand exactly how it all works. And then on the back end for our customers, we have a whole admin dashboard. And really, they're only brought up to exceptions. So they are the issuer. They need to make the decisions, and they'll carry that with them. And so only exceptions will come up to them. And so in our offerings, we find, you'll have a few thousand investors in the initial issuance, and you'll have maybe 50 or so exceptions for someone to look at.
That was the case for us.
Ami, Spice VC, have you guys made any investments yet? I know you guys raised in the order of magnitude of about $40 million earlier this year. Have you guys made any investments in securities tokens?
So yes, well, Securitize is a portfolio company, but other than that, we're doing a few things. We're working in Europe with a company called Crowdcube, which is the largest equity crowdfunding platform in Europe, out of the UK. And the idea there is to take an equity crowdfunding that raised $600 million for 600 companies and convert everything to security tokens. So everything can be liquid, so they can have an exchange. This is a huge project. It's going to take over Europe. That's one example. We invested in a stable coin called Saga. And the reason we're investing in a stable coin is we believe a stable coin is an infrastructure piece for security tokens, so people can invest in a stable coin, get dividends in a stable coin, and bypass the banks and the fiat while not being subject to the volatility.
Saga coin is the coin that's partially backed by a portfolio of currencies, correct?
It's not a portfolio of currencies. Yes, it's a basket of currencies.
A basket.
It's saga.org.
So, gentlemen, let's get to the meat of this. When securities tokens become a thing, should they be compared to utility tokens? Should they sit in the same total market cap as we see it on CoinMarketCap? Or are these two instruments completely different? Is the one like debt and equity? Are they completely different spectrums?
They're very different, although we're seeing some overlap. We're seeing deals, because the SEC said that there's no such thing as a utility token. They're all securities. So we're seeing a lot of deals where it's a combination. People issue security tokens, and then they have utility tokens later when the product is ready. But the security token itself is a security. I would say it's not even crypto. We're seeing security tokens where the security token is replacing certificates, money coming in fiat, dividends coming out in fiat, no crypto going through there, and it's still, a security token. So we think it's a completely new class, and as somebody said it earlier, it will come in the end to the public stock exchanges, and because it's just more efficient.
Well, and I would build on that. I think, and our vision is really that STOs are really going to replace the kind of middle tier of IPOs. So what used to be an IPO where you go out and raise $250, $300, $500 million, you're going to do an STO because it's simply better. More liquid, much broader markets, you can reach the whole world, a lot more investor opportunity. If you're not going to be one of the mega billion-dollar companies that's going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, it's very, very cumbersome today to do that type of listing, and an STO is simply a better way. And you can see the preference. The actual market for private placements is 16 times bigger than the market for actual IPOs.
But today, the big investors, the government pension funds, the government departments, the big institutional investors, are they allowed to buy a securities token? Do they have a mandate that says you are allowed to buy this instrument called a blockchain security token?
I would say we are pioneering this market now. Security tokens is now where Bitcoin was in 2011. This is the level of the opportunity that I see. So a lot of the building blocks that are required for institutional investors to come in are being built right now, along with the trust. So things like custodians are needed, and we already have the first custodian online. We didn't have them 3 months ago, and we're going to have a few more in the coming
Who is the
months.
first custodian?
It's a custodian called EPOR. It's a group working out of their license out of Gibraltar, and they're already starting to take money.
Yeah, and we've seen, even just at the conference, I've met with 2 other companies that are moving into the custodian for tokens, which is not for crypto. It's a whole different beast.
So it certainly does sound like an exciting space, and we're going to be watching it, although I do believe that 2019 will be the year for securities tokens. Gentlemen, do you think securities tokens are the next big thing in 2018?
Yeah, absolutely. What's happened is that the ICO, or the utility token model for the US market, is pretty much dead. So the next wave, you can do it regulatorily compliant, so absolutely. It's a good way to fund startup and early stage companies, yes.
Securities tokens, the next big thing?
Absolutely, no question. I mean, if you look at what's happening with the landscape of landscape of cryptocurrencies, is it's obviously going that way. So we need to start doing stuff in a more regulatory manner.
What he said.
Security tokens are a viable way to get investment to young companies. It allows for an actual investment in the equity of the company, something that an ICO doesn't. An ICO is nothing more than a value transfer from people who are trying to invest into people that they think are giving them something in return. That implies trust in what should be a trustless society. We need to go towards security tokens to get the protection that they need as investors.
Do you think that we can use charts or technical analysis to predict future prices of crypto?
No, actually, I'm not a believer in tech analysis.
Do you feel safe when you're transacting with the blockchain?
Depends on the blockchain.
Now, no crypto trader show is complete without getting a view from our chartists. If you know me, you know I don't really believe in the charts, but somehow Luke Martin, or Venture Coinist as he's known on Twitter, always calls it right. A few weeks ago he was on our show and he called the beginning of the altcoin run, and he was spot on. He called it to the day. Luke, where are we in this altcoin run?
Yeah, so what I use to call that altcoin run, and what I like to use is a general timing guide, both because it's a nice visual and because it's really all we have. We don't have that many data points yet in terms of valuing these assets. So I like to look at the ETH and Bitcoin channel. And what I'm looking at with this, just to keep it really simple, along that green line, this is just showing market cycles in terms of ETH valued in Bitcoin. So along that green line, that's when ETH and most other alts are valued pretty cheap. That's when you want to be overweight alts because they'll probably outperform Bitcoin. And then towards the top of that channel, the red resistance, that's when ETH and most other alts are going to be expensive. You probably want to be exiting or taking profits, moving back into Bitcoin. In April, it was kind of a screaming buy at the beginning of the month last time we talked. We've definitely moved up. I think they're still valued fair. I think they're still attractive. But now we have momentum on our side. I think we continue higher.
If I look at your chart, we're kind of at the bottom middle of the channel. So we're moving up towards the red line, but we're still pretty low. It looks to me like there's still a big run ahead of us.
Exactly, yeah. So I like to break it into thirds. If you look at, we're not right along the green line. Right when we touched the green line was January 1st, 2017, and then also December of 2017 as well, both when both of the alt runs really started. We're not at the bottom, but we were in the bottom third, so I think they're still priced pretty attractively.
So there's 2/3 left to go.
Exactly.
Now, Luke, why do we look at Ethereum as a indicator for all alts?
We look at Ethereum, right now it's the biggest alt, and the real reason that I use Ethereum versus Bitcoin, I know you like to look at the dollar value a lot. The reason I use Bitcoin value is because in 90 or 95% of alt markets, Bitcoin is the only means of liquidity. So when you move your money into Bitcoin, that's the way you buy the alt, and that's what your account is denominated in.
All right, so let's move on to the next graph that you sent us, and it's the Lisk Bitcoin chart. So just to be clear, when you look at all your trades, you always look at them against Bitcoin or against Satoshis.
Correct, yeah. If my account is denominated in Bitcoin, my goal is to be earning more Bitcoin with these trades.
Great, let's look at this chart. What are we looking at?
So with Lisk, this is really just showing kind of the abbreviated alt run that started in December 2017, peaked out January 31st of this year, and we've been moving down along that trend line resistance. We got to kind of decision point, this was about a week or two ago, and we've now broken above both of those resistance, and it's confirming nice. I think there's good upside there. I also, just like Jeremy, I want to be invested in protocols or platforms. Lisk is a nice play.
So you're taking the fundamental play, which is the protocol play, you're looking at Lisk and you're saying it's a great token, and at the same time, it now looks like it's going to break through the wedge and start its upward climb.
Exactly right.
Do you have an exit price point here?
Those two red rectangles are just based off previous resistance or selling pressure. That's where I expect to take some profits. They're about 50 and 150% higher.
50 and 100% higher.
Yep.
What are the time frames?
Hard to tell a time frame. Historically, if we move at about the same pace, alt runs usually end at about May or June.
Let's move on to the next graph, and this is the Enigma against BTC graph. What are we looking at in this graph?
Yeah, a little bit different play here. The last trade was more of a momentum play. If we're looking at Enigma now, which just had a really nice kind of catalyst or announcement this morning in regards to secret ICOs or secret smart contracts, it's a Adam and Eve reversal, classic charting pattern, and after it breaks that resistance, it comes back down and tests that resistance as support.
What is an Adam and Eve reversal?
Really simply, it's just a double bottom. You can see on the left, both of those, now we have a consecutive higher low, and now we've broken above that resistance or the neckline that was holding price down.
And what is your price target for Enigma?
Enigma, my first price target is going to be all-time high. It's kind of a different way to play the privacy sector, and especially I like the narrative kind of with the Facebook news that came out, and I think privacy and securing your data is huge.
All right, let's look at this one. I know you were skeptical to talk about this one. Edgeless, why are you skeptical to talk about it?
Yeah, I really want to be invested, and I already mentioned this like Jeremy, I want to be invested in protocols or platforms. So this one's the only DApp of the group, but a lot of other alts have already moved up, a few multiples actually. Edgeless is still along all-time low support, along that accumulation floor. So it's a lesser known coin, it's a utility token, but I really like the way it's priced. I think it's valued too attractively to pass it up.
What's your exit point on this one?
Exit point is about, that first red dash resistance is about 100% up, and then the second play would be about 2 or 3x in Bitcoin terms.
Luke, if people want to get more of your daily charts, if they want to get more of this information, Luke does call it right most of the time, where can they go?
Follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. Reach out. Happy to help.
So that's Luke Martin, and you can follow him on Twitter @VentureCoinist. I'm also on Twitter @CryptoManRun. Next week, we'll be coming to you from South Korea, where we'll be coming to you from one of the biggest Bitcoin and cryptocurrency conference in South Korea. Until then, if you need anything, I'll be on Twitter @CryptoManRun. See you next week, my friends. Happy trading.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by Element, a full-service investment bank for the digital token capital markets.